Welcome back here to the Central PA Pour. I am Brett.
I'm Kevin.
Did you forget? I'm Dave.
And look, we're all three back in the house again.
Yes.
So we're having fun, man. As we're recording this right now, it was supposed to be spring.
Yeah.
It does not fucking feel like spring.
No. It's
Cold,
snowed the other
windy,
morning.
and you're in shorts and boat shoes.
I am.
Yeah.
You're a nut.
Thank you.
He'll just be in bed with pneumonia tomorrow. That's all.
Anyways, look us up wherever you get your social media at Central PA Pour. Give us a like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. And, we could use all the support we want. We love doing this, giving you guys good topics, good guests, and stories. And we have some sitting in here. And, boom, before we bring them in, I was just on the Sips and Shenanigans train. I had a great time. That was a fun time down there doing that with brewery tours. Awesome time.
Full train?
I believe it was not sold out, but it was pretty full. There was 2 cars. I never got to the first car. We were in the one car, and I did get to meet Lou Bryson.
Nice.
He has his own podcast. We're hoping to get him on. I talked to him a little bit. He is also part of the What's Brewing out of the Montgomery County area. So look for that to come out, and we'll make some more contacts with Lou Bryson.
Absolutely.
So right now we do have some guests in the studio, and I am happy to have them in after conversing for quite some time. Welcome to the Central PA Pour, gentlemen.
Thanks for having us.
Well, who do we have sitting across the table from us?
So my name's Ed Janiak.
Okay.
And you got Rich Ford.
Rich Ford, and you guys are with Vortex Brewing in New Freedom.
The one and only.
The one and only.
For now.
Yeah.
So how did you guys come up with Vortex? We know what a vortex can be.
Right.
Are you talking about like when you whirlpool the wort to try and cool it off? Is that where you get the vortex? Or are you talking about something totally different?
It's something totally different.
Totally different.
Well, let's hear the story.
It's not the contrails off the wingtips, is it?
No.
Oh,
no.
okay.
So, like you guys have here, neighbors and all that. I had a group of friends years ago that when Friday nights was our brew night, we usually brewed beer back where I used to live down in Parkville, Maryland. Then when I moved up to Parkton, Maryland, about 6 miles south of the brewery, I had my bar there, and it became known as the Vortex. So it was coined by my friend's wife, who said, "You know what? This place is like a vortex." She goes, I can't leave here. I come here. I said I need to leave by midnight. Next thing I know, it's 2:30 in the morning, and and we're still watching music DVDs. So we have a big DVD player. We watch music DVDs. We drink great beers, whiskeys, you name it. We drinking it and
That sounds
having
like
just
a
a
hell
good
of a lot
time.
of fun, man.
Yeah, and I like to get original DVDs of bands in their heyday, like the real Zeppelin or the real Journey, so to speak, not the new Journey, but and the original Leonard Skinner, not the new Leonard Skinner, the original members. And those are the DVDs I get. A lot of them are bootlegs and stuff like that, but they're unobtainium and they're just a neat snapshot into that band at that time. So we were really into that. So everybody kind of liked that. Plus, I also homebrewed, and it was fun to have our homebrew and share our beers while we're doing that. I made a bunch of sours. So if you sat at my bar, you probably have 5 glasses in front of you, different glasses. You have a glass for whiskey, a glass for a cocktail, a glass for a sour beer, like a chalice or whatever, and then another pint glass for your regular beer that you're drinking, and maybe another one for another pass-around bottle or whatever. People bring bottles or whatever.
Beer shares. We like them.
And so that's what we did. And so she would come over and say, I need to leave by midnight or else I'm going to be a slug on Saturday. And so next thing you know, we would used to pull the battery out of the clock. And so we set the battery for set the clock for 6:59. So 6:59 became a thing where it was a joke. She would come down. She goes, "What time is that?" I said, "Karen, it's 6:59." She'd look at the clock. She goes, "Oh, you guys keep holding the battery out of that thing." She goes, "What time is it really?" And so anyway, so 6:59 was like it. The night is young. The night is
Beginning.
early enough, that it's time to party and relax and have some fun, but it's late enough to party, but it's still early enough where you got the whole night ahead of you. So it's kind of the to me the best of both worlds. It's still early, but yet you still got the night in front of you.
Did you have the Twilight music playing?
Yeah. So we actually have a clock in the brewery that my friend Joe gave me, and it's a clock, and we have it set to 6:59. And then Rich got a sign up there, and it said, "It's late enough, time stands still, and the fun never ends," type of thing. Yeah,
that is cool.
Yeah.
That is a cool story.
So that's kind of where that came from, and then the Vortex things, because this place is like a vortex. She goes, "I come here and you say, I need to leave, and the next thing you know, one more song. Well, I'll leave after this next song. It's just funny. Next thing you know, it's 3:30 in the morning, and yeah,
honey.
So it's all downhill from there.
I really forgot what time it was.
So my son, his girlfriend at the time, went, and for my Christmas present, she had a neon sign made of Vortex, and that is essentially our logo right now.
Cool.
It looks good on the building.
Yeah,
It really does.
It's a nice logo.
Yeah.
We're really happy with it. Rich liked it, and yeah. So, but what's been. So that's where that came from, and I really wanted that name, and we had to fight to get the name. We didn't have to really fight because luckily the brewery that we worked with to get a cohab. What do you call that?
Our trademark registered.
Yeah, they agreed to do coexist agreement or whatever. So they were Vortex Alley out in Oklahoma, and we were Vortex Brewing here. So we agreed not to sell our beer in Ponca, Oklahoma, and they agreed not to sell beer in New Freedom, and they liked our logo, and we had another logo that had a tornado in it, but they didn't want the tornado because that's when their logo, so we didn't do that. But they were nice guys, and they agreed to do that with us because I really wanted the name. It was important for me to have the name.
I can see why, but you didn't get any cease and desist letters, right?
No, not at all. No, we did it before we opened. Yeah, because I've read about that. I read those horror stories, like about the Aussie Ale, down at the brewery down in Baltimore. They had to call it Beasley. They couldn't call it Aussie anymore. So go figure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how does Richard play into this story? Were you part of the original Vortex?
Well, he had been to the original Vortex many times.
Well, I mean, Ed's wife and my wife both went to college together, so we were friends from a very early time, and our kids grew up together. Basically, they're more like cousins than they are neighbors, so to speak. And so Ed and I have known each other for forever, and I got sucked into the Vortex a couple times. By the way, that's our new tagline: "Come get sucked in."
Yeah.
And so one thing led to another, and we were actually down in Florida one night. Ed and I opened up a bottle of wine, contrary to the beer industry, and started talking about this and drew it up on the back of a napkin, and the idea kind of took hold. And about the third bottle, we figured out we maybe should try doing this. So one thing led to another, and we decided to try something new. So I had retired from my original career. I was a mechanical contractor and general contractor, did a lot of pretty heavy in the construction world, business world. And so retired, and then sort of came out of retirement to join forces on this. So that's
it's another full-time gig, isn't it?
It is. A lot to do. So,
but you said, he goes, I want to see what two old guys can do. How well can we do this? He goes, I want to do something fun, because he's always been, building buildings, running a company or whatever. He's had some big things he's done. I want to do something that I enjoy, and I like beer, and I think it'd be fun to do a brewery,
And
so
what's that adage say? If you love what you do, you never work a day in your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's very true. That could be very true.
So you guys are coming up on an anniversary.
Yes.
1 year?
1 year.
So have you worked a day in your life in the last 365?
I'd say a little bit of both, probably, but enjoyed the work.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's good.
It is a labor of love, because
It
we both are very committed to what we're doing, and we are having fun, and it's just challenging, and it's about as challenging.
Well, for two people that have not been in the hospitality industry or restaurant industry, it's contrary. So we've kind of had to learn the whole thing from scratch, and we go up against people that have had restaurants for years and have them down to a science. So it's for me, it was a challenge of learning something new and figuring it out. And that's especially in our brewery. I think breweries are trending. The traditional model of a brewery is starting to fall,
Yeah.
and you're going to see that change come. And if breweries don't change, some could come and some could go.
That's every industry. If you don't make changes to keep up, you're going to be left behind.
But we've been talking to a lot of the industry guys. I get pretty involved in some of that, and I think the restaurant piece, we weren't going to do that. We were going to be the traditional brewery with a food truck outside and just sell beer, and thought that would be a great idea. And then as construction got delayed a little bit and people were in my ear, Ed and I decided maybe we should put a small kitchen in, specialize in certain things.
Yeah.
And I'd have to say thank God we did that, because we now have changed some of our signs now. It's Vortex Brewing Company and Restaurant, because
Nice.
we got to let people know, and the food is such an important ingredient. So
I
that's one
think
of the
so
things
as
that's
well.
changed.
Yeah, we've heard that before. I mean, there's just breweries
Right.
that have the food trucks or no food, and they have their niche.
Yes.
People still go there because they like the joint. But your idea is you want butts in the seat, and the longer you can keep them there, the better it is for you overall. So having food is part of that
Yeah.
equation.
Yeah. Plus
So-
our proximity to the rail trail, that's a big thing. The train,
Yeah.
people want to eat. People come to our place to eat. It's families, kids, it's young folks, it's older folks. It's a nice mix
You
of
have
people.
that
when you
nice
walk
little
around.
outdoor patio, and it
Yeah.
was nice on Saturday when I stopped by. So we definitely got to get back down
Mm-hmm.
there.
It's a little gem in New Freedom. People are starting to find out about us now. People are saying, "Oh, wait a minute, we didn't know this was in New Freedom."
What are your hours?
We're open right now. We're currently open Wednesdays through Sundays.
Okay.
3 to 10 on Wednesdays and Thursdays, 12 to 10 on Fridays, and 11 to 10 on Saturdays and Sundays. Saturdays, and then we close at 9 on Sundays. But that's in motion too. We may open on Tuesdays here coming up. That we may make some adjustments to hours. Wintertime hours can be a little different than summertime hours.
Sure.
This first year was a real learning curve. We learned what things that did work, things that didn't work, and now with a year under our belt, it's we can kind of guide
Wow,
it
do
much
we-
better.
Do we know a lot about learning curves?
Come on, man! I'm a fucking know-it-all.
Yeah, I know. You tell us that every day.
I tell you a lot of shit every day. It's whether you believe me or not.
Whether we listen to you or not.
Oh,
So we have a beer sitting here. So tell us a little bit about this beer. This is one of your flagships?
yes, it has become our number one seller. We released this beer back in August, September last year for the New Freedom Festival. And we actually had an Oktoberfest tent, and we had an Oktoberfest beer. We did a Dortmunder lager, and that was our fest beer. We also released the Freedom Lager as well at that time. And over the last 6 months, it has become our number one selling beer.
And is this considered just a light lager or a Helles
Yeah, so
lager?
it's an American style lager.
American
It's
style.
American lager. So we have a very simple grist on that, just mostly Pilsner malt and some red wheat.
And it's going to be a nice, sessionable, easy
Yes,
drinking.
It's very crushable.
beer.
It's smooth. It's got a nice drinkability.
Good looking.
Rich was the
Yes.
first person I probably tested on.
and it's clear.
Very.
Nice and
Yeah.
clear.
Yeah.
We heard from several brewers that you can make a mistake on beers and hide it in with hops and cloudy and hazy, but try and do a lager, especially a lighter lager.
Yeah.
You ain't hiding nothing.
No,
And
no.
I can't wait to try this. So it's nice and clear. So
Cheers.
Cheers.
Freedom Lager. It's got a nice aroma to it.
Oh boy, that's good. It is good.
Yes. I get a little bit of a malt backbone, but it has got a clean and crisp
Yeah.
palate and finish.
I think the wheat really helps it finish.
Nice job. So,
And then we use some new age hops, some Sauvignon Blanc
okay.
hops.
That kind of get
Or
kind of like
I'm
a
sorry, Hallertauer Blanc,
Okay.
and some Saphir
All right.
or Sapphire, like we call it, Saphir hops. But anyway, that's another German style hop.
So what does I've heard the Hallertau before, not the Hallertau Blanc, but
Right.
is that more of like going to bring out like a wine note to it? In
Yes,
the back end?
they talk about gooseberries. They talk about almost like a melon type thing.
Yeah.
and some spice as well. It's a really nice
That's what I'm getting. A
hop
spice.
combination. Yeah,
I'm not a light beer drinker by any means, but
Right.
that I
but
can
to me
see it.
accentuates the simpleness of the grist, and it just is a really nice finish that carries it through to the end.
That's a nice drinking beer. I could drink that.
And again, it finishes nice and clean.
Yep.
You can quaff it, and it really. When I do smash burgers on Thursday nights, this is the first beer I have as soon as we're done. I probably drink a good drink, then 2 more drinks and it's done. then I'll sip on the second one. But this is that kind of beer that just, and a lot of people have told me that too. Customers have said, I really like this the best because I can just quaff it.
I can beer bong this or
Yeah.
shotgun
Yeah.
it or whatever you want to do.
It's just very easy on the palate and it just
Yeah.
sits really well.
And I think that's our transitional beer for the people that we try to convert.
Yeah.
And they need to get into it. And I've talked to so many people that I just can't get into craft beer. And I said, you got to start with this and try it.
And I think that's where breweries like you guys are becoming, okay, we need to have something for every palate to
Yeah.
try and introduce somebody to this better beer.
I've had older folks, like my father's age or whatever, if you will, and then I've had people that are just light beer drinkers. Do you have anything that tastes like Bud Light? Do you have anything that tastes like Budweiser or whatever? And I'll be like, and I used to laugh at that, but now I don't because I realize it's a thing. People want to drink what they're comfortable drinking.
I done went to the toilet and just pulled out a bucket of water.
Yeah. But my challenge was, how can I make a beer, a nice light lager that drinks really well, that I don't have a bunch of cereal grains in, a bunch of rice, a bunch of corn. I'm not lighting it with that. How do I do that? And so I figured out a way to do it, and it's an all malt beverage.
It is. It's very nice. And I never heard of using, what'd you say, it was red wheat?
It was red wheat malt.
So
Yeah.
where does that what does that play into? Is it bringing like a little different, like a almost like the other side
So
of
it
a
gives
Hefeweizen?
it gives it almost like a little bit of tang to it, in the back, and so it finishes where the Pilsner malt has such a sweetness to it, on the back end. So what that does is it kind of tempers that. It gives it like a little contrast, if you will. So when you drink that and you get that little bit of that, almost like a little twang at the end of it, because wheat malt almost has a twang to it as well. But the red wheat especially has that, as opposed to white wheat.
Where did you get all your education on knowing what to do?
I read a lot.
You read a lot?
I read a lot. Yeah, absolutely. I look at the beers I like, the beers that I admire, and I follow the people that make them. I listen to their, podcasts. I listen to what they do, and so little tips and tricks, I learned over the years, and that to me that helped me evolve the beer.
Yeah.
To making a beer that I really like to make. I don't want to make what they make, but I want to make something of that quality.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's like, with me, with coming up, when we finally stepped away from kits and went to all grain, I'm like, all right, let me come up with some recipes. I had no freaking clue where to look.
Right.
So I went out and did the same thing. I looked at similar style, looked at some recipes, and like, okay, so I just went in and started playing, and lo and behold, I was in the green of the style that I needed, so I knew I was doing something right.
Yeah.
It's a matter of now putting that into application and brewing it.
Yeah, absolutely. There were some tweaks from the first batch we made of this. It wasn't as carbonated as I wanted it to be, and it wasn't as dry as I wanted it to be. And so what we did on the next version of it was we definitely kicked up the carbonation on it, but I also wanted that gravity to be a little bit lower. So we mashed it at a lower temperature so we can get more dryness out of it. Most lagers, I don't know, you can mash them at a higher temperature, like ales they mash at a really high temperature, but lagers tend to mash on the low end. So you go down, the further you go down, the little drier you can get it. So between that and the yeast that we used, we were able to get that attenuation the way we wanted it, and it definitely helped finish
And
it.
it's going to happen. You can't sample this through the process and say, oh, this is what I want. You got to wait till it's completed, then you know what the product's going to be like.
Yeah.
Then you tweak it the next time.
Exactly.
So where does Richard come in on this? Do you brew too?
I don't.
But but he enjoys beer.
So I was just sitting here thinking of the conversation and your point, and to put something in place and build something to this magnitude, I see a lot of people start out and they're like, "Oh yeah, we'll build a brewery and we'll find a brewer, no problem." I personally wouldn't have gotten involved in this venture if it weren't for Ed. He's the magic. He's what makes it happen. I wouldn't want to be in a business where I hired somebody that for whatever reason decides I'm going to go somewhere else or whatever. I mean, Ed's the magic and makes it work, and that's what makes this a partnership unique in the sense that he brings that strength. I personally wouldn't have gotten involved if I didn't have a brewer.
Same thing when you were in the construction side. You have to have a team that you know is going to do the job.
I would have never gotten to this if it weren't for him.
Right.
Because what he brings to the table is something I can't do, I don't know about. So we're kind of yin and yang type of thing.
It's any relationship.
Yeah, we have our lanes that we travel in. I mean, but we can easily talk to each other about everything. We get along really well.
That's good.
I think our relationship is solid. I mean, we're still great friends, and
So that's where the strengths of it.
we don't argue. We talk about difficult things, and we talk about it. And we get out in the open, and then we figure out the solution to it. And we never argue. We just don't argue.
That's
you
good.
know?
That's good.
And some of that I will say is also because you made the comment we're older guys wanting to try to figure this out.
Yeah.
I probably was a little different drive when I was in my 30s and 40s, and that can be a volatile time for a lot of partnerships and
Yeah.
people. I'm at a stage in life where those things don't matter as much to me. So I think that's some of the uniqueness to this, to what what makes Vortex kind of an interesting match, because we come at it a little differently than most people.
Yeah, we don't argue, do we?
Not a bit.
That's because usually I'm drunk. I said I'm usually drunk.
Yeah. Well, we're kind of like in the same, junior, because we're older guys that's just trying to figure it out.
Right.
Excuse me?
We started 3 generations.
Yeah, it
Dave,
is.
Brett, and I, and then my son.
So it was kind of unique because we all three have different perspectives.
Yeah.
Right.
Mine's the best one, but what can I say?
And I think what's nice when we started this, everybody has a different palate. You're going to taste something in that beer. I don't care who you are, but you're
Yeah.
going to get something different. So we'll taste the same beer, and we all he'll say, I'm getting more of a citrus. I'm like, really? I don't get that. But
When I first met Rich, he didn't really care for hoppy beer. It made him sneeze. It still makes him sneeze.
Still sneeze.
But over the years, as he's tried different beers that I made, he's like, well, I really like that beer. I can drink that beer. And now, I didn't think he'd like the IPA, but he likes, that's one of his favorite beers is the IPA. So he's really increased his knowledge of beer just by being exposed to it. You know what I mean?
and that's the same thing as us. We're more the darker, the heavier, the bottle you kind of brought. That kind of style is what we really like.
Yeah.
Now we have mostly opened up our palates except one. But we'll sit here and drink it all.
I can't argue that. I mean, it's just some of the beers that these guys like. I just struggle choking it down
But
sometimes.
we appreciate what the beer is.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
We have yet to really have a bad beer
Yes, we did.
presented.
Oh no, not on the podcast.
Not on the podcast. I'm not talking that
I brought a bad beer to one of our.
whatever that Duchesse or whatever it was from.
You didn't like Duchesse?
No.
Really? The Flanders Red Ale? Oh
No.
my God.
No, this was
that was
it
a
was a cherry.
chocolate cherry
chocolate
cordial
cherry
from the what that Belgium brewery. I think it was called Chocolate Duchesse or something. It was supposed to be a sour,
Yeah,
like
we
a
were
chocolate
trying to-
cordial.
Oh, it was god awful, terrible.
Yeah. And I lived with that until Kevin. Kevin upped me on that one.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So every once in a while we get one bad one, but mostly on the show, it might not be something we're going to go back and get.
Right.
But we appreciate the beer for what it is.
Sure.
And we get what you guys are explaining out of it. And that's kind of what we're here for. It's just, we're here to focus on you guys and your story and what you guys are doing and how you're doing it. I think it's phenomenal what you guys have started with the Vortex. And I think the sign is cool. At
Yeah, oh, yeah.
$6.59. I didn't
Yeah.
see that when I was there. I wasn't
Yeah.
looking for it, but
That's
Yeah.
inside the door as you
We're
go.
going to get a light
door.
to illuminate it.
I gotta do some extra lighting on it.
that's
Rich
pretty-
sees something that needs to be done, like in the building. I come back next week. There's a light there. You know,
He's got it
there's
done.
a fixture there. He's just a mechanical guy. He gets stuff done. It's pretty amazing.
But Ed does a great job too. If you look at the can of beer on the back, it'll give you 3 names of what we grabbed out of that flavor. So Ed will get all the employees
Oh.
huddled in,
you can see it.
crisp, clean, and light body.
the panel, the tasting panel.
The tasting panel,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
when he takes all the employees huddle up, the ones that are 21 and older, and they give them a taste, and everybody writes down the 3 things that they on a paper what they thought they tasted, and then we take by kind of democratic process decide which ones are going to go on the can.
That's
Great
cool.
idea.
That's
So
a
it kind
good
of
idea.
involves the employees too a little bit, so that they can see what's going on and understand a little bit.
Nice.
what
Get
the
the,
beer's
yeah,
about.
get them involved, and their input. It makes them feel part of the whole
Ownership.
plan.
Exactly.
So do you know how there's people that like beer, but they don't really want to know all the details about it? Those 3 words are for those folks. Hey, that's light, that's hoppy, it's refreshing. I think I could drink that. There's other people that the description is for the beer geeks that want to know. Oh, this is a malt in there. These are the hops that we use. This is, you know what I mean, that kind of thing. It's a little more descriptive that regular folks really don't care about.
No,
you know?
no. And what we're trying to do is we're learning, like what you were saying about the hops.
Yeah.
Every hop, we're still learning,
Yeah.
and there's so many freaking hops. What out there?
And there's more coming out every day,
Oh.
it seems like. I'm way behind, I think. I mean, I love my classic hops for the different beers I brew, but, you know, we are trying to use some new ones, and I'm looking at using some new ones
I
in
mean,
the future.
basically, what I've brewed so far in the last year has been East Kent Goldings and Fuggle.
Right?
It's
right.
because it's English.
Yes.
It's an English style,
Yeah.
and it's what I'm after. So,
And I do try to brew my beers true to style. I don't say, here's my take on this beer, because then you change the style if it's your take, because I'm going to use a New Zealand hop and a British ale. I'm not saying that may not work, that won't work. I'm
not
just
what you're
saying
after.
that's not what I'm after. I want to do an authentic representation of what that beer is supposed to
with
be.
maybe some
Yeah.
twist,
Yeah.
with
yeah.
your personal twist on it.
Right, but when you drink it, I want you to say, "Oh my God, that's a great Helles Lager, or that's a great, New England IPA, or that's a great English mild." You know, I love that, and I've gotten comments for that. How people like the fact that we brew true to style.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, you guys just wanted
Instead of our take.
You wanted the Winter Brew Fest.
Well, yeah, no, and again, there were some great breweries there, and I'm very humbled by that, because I mean, South County is one of my favorite breweries. We go up there. We've been up there before, and where the old place in Fawn Grove, we've been there. We bought their beers and taken them camping and stuff like that. If you like IPAs and
They got IPAs
New
out
England
the
Pale
end.
Ales, that's the place you want to get your beers from, because they do a great job.
Yep.
And the other breweries do a great job too. I mean, Dock Street was there. I've been to Dock Street in Philadelphia. It was fantastic. Lancaster Brewing was one of my favorites. For a long time.
And
Back
they're one
when,
of they're one
back
of the
when Bill
early-
Moore was there.
I was
Remember
gonna say, they're
Bill
one of
Moore?
the- I don't remember him, but
Yeah.
when we had Mark here, I didn't realize they'd been around that long.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah, they've
right.
been around a while, and I used to get kegs of Lancaster. You see my kegerator at home. I got stickers from almost every beer they did on my kegerator. That was one of my standard beers. I go up and get at least 2 sixtels every time, and I get the double chocolate stout every Christmas. A half keg of it, yes, double chocolate stout.
So I got to be honest. We we had a special beer at Lancaster at the festival,
Oh, he had a Scottish wee heavy.
and
Oh, really?
and it was great.
Yeah.
And then I got to yours, and I said, I think I just found one to beat that one, and they're both phenomenal.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, Matt was there pouring, and he's like, we were talking about that, and he's like, yeah, well, I brought a wee heavy, but it's barrel aged. We're like, oh, we're following you,
Yes.
and it was damn good.
yeah.
Yeah, it was very good.
So
The guys at Gift Horse and the Sign of the Horse, their beers are solid. They do a great job.
I think they're all solid.
And those guys couldn't be nicer either. They've been really nice to Rich and I. I mean, the guys at Gift Horse are just as friendly as could be. They invite us to their festival. And again, the guy from Sign of the Horse, those guys are awesome too. They invite us to their festivals.
I
So,
think
yeah.
that's what's cool about this whole thing is there's a community.
Yeah, they're very inclusive, and I really like that. I admire that. Yeah.
Now, how is it down in New Freedom with the 3 of you so far? I mean, do you do you guys get to collab with them at all, like Alecraft or Gunpowder?
We've talked about it, but we've been so busy we haven't really gone there yet. So that may be something we want to do in the future, but we haven't really gotten close to that yet. Yeah,
Haven't done too much there. You know, the Gunpowder's kind of specialized in his own little world.
German style, true to style, and not wavering.
yes, yeah,
And
Good
so-
beer. It's-
yeah. He
it's-
does a good job.
He does
His
a good
beers are
job.
solid. Yeah,
we learned a lot about him when he was on, 3 years in Germany. So that's where he learned to brew, and that's what
Yeah.
he brought back over. And everybody has their niche.
right. Exactly. Exactly.
I can't wait to, see what you guys are going to bloom into and how you guys progress. That's what I'm looking forward to.
We just want to have fun and brew good beer.
Well, and we believe my philosophy in the world I came from too is, besides good beer, is I'm a big branding guy, and that's where Vortex comes in, and that's what a lot of my effort is into branding that name. So when you get to a point where you hear or see the word Vortex, you're going to say, that's that place in New Freedom. So I follow a lot into branding. That's where I put a lot of my focus and emphasis.
And you need that. You need that. Speaking of your system, how big of a system is it? I mean, how many fermenters can you put on?
We have an ABE system. It's a 10-barrel brew kettle, and we have an oversized 15-barrel mash tun, and that was recommended by our friends at.
We did collaborate. We did have a lot of help with a group, Hopkins Brewery down in Maryland. They're close friends of mine, and we talked to them a lot. So we basically followed their theme and bought their equipment, and we used their. We used a guy named Steve Saunders, Woodbury Fabrication.
Okay.
And really just
Did
they
a
helped us a
fantastic
lot.
job.
And I think that's also a lot of help to Ed. He's got top notch equipment to work with.
Yeah, that was important. I didn't want to, I heard all the horror stories about buying somebody else's problems, buying used equipment, and then you got to have somebody to cobble it together, which I'm
Right.
sure Steve could have done. But we decided to go to spend the money and get the new equipment.
Get it up
we
front
could,
and just
And if we have a
eat it.
good process and good recipes, we should be able to make killer beer. And I think that's been part of the success, of
Yeah.
our beer so far.
So how many? 10-barrel brewing system, basically.
Yes.
How many beers you guys can keep in your fermenters?
So we have 4 10-barrel fermenters, and we have 2 20-barrel fermenters.
Wow, so you
Yeah.
can double batch the Freedom Lager or
Exactly.
some of your house
That's what
stuff.
we're doing now. We're double batching the Freedom Lager. We're also double batching our Ukrainian Gold that sells really well. And I didn't bring any Ukrainian Gold, but
We're done. Fuck
Yeah.
it, we're done.
but
How long does it take to get down there?
but yeah, was it 28 minutes or
I think it was
About a half hour.
yeah, about a half hour from here. But
About an hour and 15 minutes running or walking.
yeah,
And I don't know if you noticed or not, but we did something that's pretty unique. You won't find too many breweries. We worked a deal with Mueller serving tanks. So behind our bar, instead of the typical wall with a cold box and everybody pumping their beer out of kegs, we have the Mueller serving tanks, which are 10-barrel.
I saw that beside that. Is
We
that
have
what
9
that was?
We have those
Yeah,
are
the
those are
European
10-barrel tanks, and we have room for 3 more for growth. And so we can also hustle beer out into those. So we can move 10 barrels of product out into the brewery. So we're not switching kegs all the time.
and they're
Or
insulated. They're glycol chilled independently.
I saw that. I'm glad
and
you
we
brought
can
it
adjust
up.
the pressure they're delivered at.
We actually saw this at a brewery. What caught our eye was it's called Mad Mole in Wilmington, North Carolina. And Ed and I both took a peek at them on our travels up, and Ed actually spent some time with them through a friend of mine, and really kind of mimicked their sort of lagering tanks, so to speak. They
Yeah.
have a bladder inside them, so we don't have to clean tanks. It has looks like a NASA spacesuit.
It's like a
type
bag
of
in a box, like a wine.
So you fill the bag up with beer, and then we use compressed air is what forces it out.
Push the beer out. Yeah.
So
but
besides,
you put fermented carbonated beer in it.
right.
Whatever your carbonation level there, say it's 2.6 volumes, we do that in the fermenter.
bag.
We push that into the tank, into the bag, and then we use the compressed air to actually push it out.
Because as the
tap.
bag goes, it needs
Yeah,
it still
it'll
needs
flatten
pressure
out.
in it.
Yeah, it's really very cool.
So it gives us even a different capacity, and we didn't have room. We didn't want to put a giant cold box in when we were designing it, and if we did put a cold box with taps, it would have eliminated the window that lets people see the brewery.
Right.
And I personally have an aversion to going into a brewery and you can't see the tanks.
Right.
And you don't know they're in another building.
Oh, you
Yeah.
need to do something like South County did. I mean,
South County's a perfect example of doing
Yeah.
it right.
Yeah.
When you're in their brewery, you can tell and you can see their equipment. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's very
Why
cool.
hide it?
Who
So-
else was that? Windridge has a kind of a smaller area window you can see down into the brewery.
There's
So-
quite a few of them, really. You think about it.
But
It's-
think about how many that don't.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and they make great beer, but you don't see anything, you know. So the thing about having the tanks out in front, people really do love it. And if you go on Tapped, a lot of people that take pictures of our beers when they rate the beers, they usually do it in front of the tanks. You know, these tanks are awesome, you know.
It is cool.
good
It's
idea.
It is a
idea.
focal point. It's a really
That's
nice
where
focal.
your vision comes into play.
Yeah.
So, like you said, I think it's great, man.
Yeah.
What else you guys got going on down there? I mean, you guys do. We know you go to some festivals.
We try to go. I wanted to get the beer out as much as possible last year and go to as many festivals as we could. We're going to do that again this year. We've already been invited back to some of the festivals we went to last year that we had a good time at, and they were great. They were well run, and we're going to do them again this year. And there's some new ones coming up that we didn't know about. We want to try to get down into some more Maryland festivals. Most of the stuff we did last year was mostly PA.
And bring the Maryland people
Yeah,
across the Mason.
because we're right on
Dixon
the
line.
line. Yeah, and that's where we're from. I live in the Hereford zone. Rich lives in Harford County, and there's a lot of people that come up to PA front because there's nothing down there except the farm breweries.
Yeah, we got Colton coming on from Falling Branch up here. We're going to be recording with him soon. So
Yeah, and they carried one of our beers last month for their Stout Fest that they had. Yeah,
Funny story about
Yeah.
Falling Branch. I went to school with Alan Galbraith, who is the father of the son who built that.
Okay.
And actually, Ed and I were doing some market research. We were there before ours. It was just still an idea, and we got talking to Alan. And actually, Ed, they had just bought a new 15-barrel system, and one thing led to another. And since our project was delayed, Ed jumped in and helped them get theirs up and running and operational. So Ed brewed for about just close to a year at Falling Branch. So we
It was a
actually
great experience.
we've had some good
Yeah.
we have some good contacts in a lot of Falling Branch, Hopkins.
Yeah.
A couple of those guys down there have really assisted us in getting our operation.
yeah. Alan and Kim, and then Alex, their son, who ran it, were great people. They're great people, and they helped us a lot with that. And I'm glad I got to work there and on that equipment. And then when I left, when we were thinking we were going to open that following year, which we didn't because of the different issues that were going on, my assistant brewer, my nephew, I was able to get him to work there. So I trained him. They said, when the head brewer at the time said, yeah, he goes, you can get him on board as long as you teach him your good habits. And I'm like, okay. So that last month I worked there, I showed Adam everything that I did, how to make the beer and everything. And he worked there the entire year before we opened. So all of 2022, he worked there. So he got great education.
that's good.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And again, they're great folks, and they do some really nice beers there. So good shout out to them.
Yeah.
They're wonderful people.
Speaking of beers, we got another one here,
Yeah.
and the notes are hoppy, resinous, and crisp. Right on the back of the can.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what this one is.
So that's the Penzi Pale Ale. So that is initially that was what I called my hoppy pale ale. And so that is brewed with Pilsner malt. I used chit malt, and I used oats in it
Okay,
to
nice,
soften it up.
nice
So it
and
is a
clear.
New England style pale ale, if you will.
but not a hazy.
Right, it's not hazy. We tried to do it hazy, and when we put it into the Mueller tanks, the horizontal tanks, within a month it was clear as a bell.
Because it lays
Yeah.
it different. Instead of up like
the
that,
lager
it's down.
tanks just settle that yeast out of suspension, and the solids, it settles that all the cloudiness out of suspension. It just is unbelievable how that happens. It even happens to our IPA too. We ended up having to add an extra bag for our hazy IPA of unmalted white wheat just to keep it cloudy. And even that towards the end it wants to clear. It's amazing. So anyway, the Penzi is to me is a quintessential pale ale in the New England style because it's got the oats in it. It's got some chit malt to give it the sweetness in the body, and the hops that we put in there are kind of standard. We use some Columbus hops in there, and and nothing's in the boil. It's all in the Whirlpool, Columbus, Mosaic, and then we dry hop it with Citra.
So is this one of Richard's IPAs that he likes?
This is something. Well, this is the pale ale. It's
Right.
4.8%.
It's okay.
It's a sub 5% pale ale, and it is, to me, me and my brewer, we both agree it's one of the best beers, but it's probably not the top selling beer. Even though we love it.
We also worked with New Freedom, and actually some people have helped us there. So a lot of our beers, like the Penzi, carries a train theme because of New Freedom and the relationship.
Oh, yeah.
So not all our beers, but a lot of them you track back and say, oh, okay, that was something to do with the old train.
That's where sometimes names come from.
Yeah, Cold Car Stout.
Yeah.
Our
High Rail.
High Rail Hazy, our Ukrainian Freight Train Golden Ale. Yeah. So
got
it does have it is always a lean on the railroad because it's a railroad town and we love the railroad names. If we can interplay that somehow, it's really cool.
That's cool.
Cheers, guys.
Penzi Pale Ale.
Yes.
And there is a nice hop load on that front end, on that nose.
Wowzer.
And I love the mosaic in that because the mosaic has that dankness.
That's right up front.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's up front.
You get the Citra. Well, the Columbus also has a little bit of dank, but Columbus is a nice boil hop or, kind of a hop that you would put in. It's one of the C hops, they're like cheater hops, right? Columbus, Cascade,
Right.
Citra. But I love the mosaic because that gives you a little contrast to the
It
juiciness
does.
of the Citra and the Columbus. It gives you a little contrast there.
I like that.
And I like the dankness. I love the dank in there.
That's
You know-
a beer.
You bring that up, and I have to comment on this. We have a questionnaire that we send out, and on the questionnaire we ask, what kind of beers do you like? And your description of the beer, I just looked at it and I just said, okay. He's over here.
I'm trying to
I'm
remember
over
what
here.
that was.
What's that?
I'm trying to remember what the description was.
Oh,
You asked what are your favorite beers or what's your favorite beer?
I could read it back to you.
Oh,
It's-
okay.
It was just
That's
funny,
funny.
the first line. And
What, the funky sour?
yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's my first love.
Yeah. The funky sour.
That's your
dank.
description, right, Dave? That's what you put down when you say your favorite style.
No, my favorite style is the opposite. Oh, there it is. I see it. I love dry, funky, sour beers. Dry, funky, sour beers. And I read that and I
That
said,
means a lot of lacto and Brett.
Yeah.
I just love it. It's just there's something so unique about it, and if you do it well, it's you really can't. People can't copy that,
Right.
because it's so subjective, based upon the barrel you're using. And I would inoculate barrels with those bugs, and I would write on the barrel what bug was in there. So this is Lacto brevis, or this is Brettanomyces,
Yeah, because you don't want to use anything else in there.
Yeah, well, yeah, and they'd each have their own bugs. So I had different barrels that each had different bugs or combinations of bugs in there, and it was very interesting. And you'd be surprised what the beers were. I'm looking at one of the things I'm looking forward to doing is being able to do that at the brewery or off-site somewhere. I really don't want to bring those bugs into the brewery right now because we're brewing mostly all clean beers. That being said, I'm going to try to do some sour beers that actually have the real deal in there, just because they're so unique and they have such a complexity to them that's just sublime. It's so wonderful to drink those beers.
I was going to say, Jason up at Aldous, they do a lot of that.
Yeah.
Those wild yeast sours. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Aldous is one of my favorites up in Hanover. Actually, they do a great job up there. Yeah, I like Jason Hates It.
Jason,
It's like a face.
Yeah.
I guess that's of him. I don't think I've met Jason.
It
But
was his
Yeah.
face.
it's his face.
it's like a face like that. I think Rich and I went up there to
had
August
the
to
blueberry.
check it out. Yeah,
It was funny when we had them in studio. He brought that up, and
Yep.
it was one of the beers we were sampling.
Yeah.
He says, "I can't have my face on camera drinking this beer because the label was a joke. It was
Yes.
meant to be a joke,
Absolutely.
but they were like, so he brought it out as a joke, and they're like, no, that's the label." So as we sampled the beer when I did my post edit, I got one of those smiley faces and just covered his face.
Perfect.
That's a great idea.
But yeah, he was talking about the wild yeast and stuff, and he even takes some of his old barrels with
Yeah.
that stuff and creates a vinegar in it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you absolutely can.
Yep.
I actually have some barrels of beers that didn't go so well that I just used for vinegar.
Yeah, I actually got a bottle of his vinegar up here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it makes amazing vinegar. So
It doesn't
Don't
taste
throw it
as-
out.
no, it doesn't.
as long as it doesn't
the
taste like
same.
nail polish or smell like nail polish, and I think you're fine.
Well, we'll do ham and green beans once in a while, and I love my apple cider vinegar in it.
Yes.
That's what I grew up. I'm just old,
Yep. Yeah.
and I was like,
That is old school, isn't it?
I got his vinegar out. I'm like, just that's not going to be the same flavor profile as the apple cider vinegar. So I'm going to put the apple cider
funny.
vinegar in it.
That's funny.
Yeah. That's cool.
So, what do you guys do in your personal time? You interests and hobbies or anything? Is there personal time?
These days, not so much, but yeah. But go ahead,
My,
Rich. Rich is
Yeah, I think I put on one of my things on. A side passion of mine is racing motorcycles.
I
So-
saw that.
So I've been I raced probably off and on professionally for about 20 years. Flat
Oh,
track in the
wow.
area.
Wow.
And then my father raced. I followed in his footsteps.
Now we're talking flat track like you used to do at the York Fairgrounds and stuff like that.
I raced at York Fairgrounds many
Oh,
times.
that's cool as shit.
Trailway Speedway was a big track up here in Hanover that I put a lot of laps on. Pretty much, I was more of a journeyman racer. I was never going to be the big.
But
follow the
you're
championship.
still sitting here with 2 limbs and 4 limbs, and you're still walking normal.
Yep. So
he
I
didn't
still-
debilitate
I still
himself.
dabble in it. There's a vintage riding. As we get older, we just make classes for ourselves. So there's a 60 plus class that I sometimes will sneak out in, and actually the breweries actually dabbles in a little bit. We're actually sponsoring one of the AFT flat track racers in the area, a kid named Brandon Price, and he just raced down Daytona a couple weeks ago and got second place in the national. And
Oh, he did then. Okay.
Yeah, very cool.
So we Vortex has got a little piece of that sponsorship.
And that was
so
that was spring Daytona.
that was spring Daytona.
Yeah.
So as far as a hobby, that's I actually probably still build motorcycles or build full with them all. The
He has
time,
some
so.
beautiful motorcycles. What's that one? You have the Bull Taco.
I have some old Bull Tacos from when I raced in my early
Wow.
days.
He's got his dad's old motorcycle. Gorgeous.
A couple Triumphs.
Yeah.
So a couple of Triumphs I used when I was a junior, and quite a bunch of stuff in the hobby. So if you want to know my side passion when I find time to do it is that, along with
So
my
you got some expensive hobbies.
Oh, yeah.
You got a brewery you wanted to start. Now
Yep.
what hobby is not cheap?
There's probably not too many. Maybe collecting
Well, you got
stamps.
fishing and hunting. It's not too bad.
That's
there.
what I-
That's
still
that's what I
expensive,
do.
too.
Those are my hobbies: fishing, hunting, camping. I love
Yeah.
those because I did those when I was quite poor, and
Yeah.
they were relatively cheap. Of course, now you can spend as much money as you want on tents and guns and fishing rods. and
Camping's
whatever,
not cheap.
But back then, I did bare bones, and Rich and Roberta would go camping with us on occasion with the kids. And just a couple of years ago, we went camping with our boys. It was fun. We had a good time.
It was funny when I met my wife and I said we go camping. She goes, "Oh hell, I'm not going camping," because her idea of camping was a tent. I'm like, "No, I got a camper. We go camping. I set up. It's almost like being from home.
Right.
It's home away from home."
Uh huh.
So she's okay with it, but yeah,
There you go.
it's not cheap.
No.
I mean, easily weekend you're talking $300-400 easily till you're said and done. Food.
You bring your robins with you too. I saw them out there today.
Oh, those damn birds! I hate birds. Only good birds are dead birds. Of course, Mike from Mood
I like
Duck
them
didn't-
roasted.
Yeah, Mike from Mood Duck didn't like to hear it when I said that.
Yeah.
because he's a bird guy.
Bird guy.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah. He didn't get into the only good bird is a KFC bird. He didn't like that one.
That's great.
So let me ask you a question. How are you coming with your certification? And I ain't gonna try to figure. What was it, Saucony? And
So there's a Cicerone.
Cicerone,
program out there,
okay.
yeah, that's very cool. So I did the first. I think I've done the first 3. So one of them was the Cicerone bar server, and that's a really good thing. We're trying to get our servers qualified on it because they can take that anywhere they go to work, and it's actually something that's desirable. when you apply for a job as having a Cicerone bar server. And again, that's the lowest Cicerone. And what that means is that you know tap systems, you know how to pour a beer, you know what a clean glass looks like, you know how to serve the beer in the right glass, you understand the different beer styles. It's a lot of knowledge for a person. And again, the servers are younger folks, 25 or, and they don't have the beer knowledge that, somebody like I that's been doing it for 40 some years would have. But it's a lot of packed into that, and they can get a lot of great information. Again, being able to troubleshoot a tap system, is a huge thing, and if it's too foamy, well, you pull the ring on the tap and release the air, and then you can pour a clear beer or whatever. When you change out taps or you change out kegs and stuff like that, some of these folks don't know what to do. They don't understand how that works, and this helps them understand what that is, why it is, and how you adjust things.
That's cool. I never even really
It
heard
is.
of
We
that.
needed him last summer when the one was
Yeah.
foamy there.
Yeah.
But then the other thing is like the brewing process, and they got brewing process. They got different sections of the Cicerone. So again, the Cicerone, the certified Cicerone, is like 5 or 6 different modules. So I've done the first 3 or 4 of them. I'd like to get to the end of it and actually get the certification. That's my goal eventually.
And become
Yeah.
master.
Well, that's a big deal now. So so you have the certified, you have an advanced, and then you have a master Cicerone. There's only so many master Cicerones in the world.
Wow.
I think there's only like 500 of them. Yeah, it's crazy.
So you are taking this vocation change to a new level.
Yeah, I mean, and it just because you're better able to talk about beer cogently to people, and especially people that don't know about beer, but also other peers, that are into beer. You can talk about things.
Like people helped you, and you can help those behind
Exactly.
you. So I think that's
it's
cool.
learning. I feel like I'm teaching people about beer at the brewery. People ask about it, and I talk to people all the time. I walk around. Rich and I, when we're done our work stuff, things that got to get done, we go out and we walk around, we talk to customers, and you're amazed. I'm amazed at how much customers will tell you, and how much they want to know about it. It's really something.
I was kind of interested in the other one was the beer judge certification that I can get
Yeah.
that and just sit around, drink beer and judge it.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
you know,
also a lot of fun.
I like that
Yeah.
idea.
And that's in the same line as Cicerone, kind of. You learn the same things, and but the Cicerone is actually a certification that you could use to get a job.
Yeah.
And also it's just a kind of bragging rights, that you've achieved a certain level of knowledge of the beer world. But the BJCP, the Beer Judge Certification Program, is another thing. And that's a lot of fun too. When I entered my beers into contests like local regional contests, these beer judges would come in and they'd sit there and they'd judge beers. And I actually got to go to one down at Silver Spring down in DC a few years ago, and I had 2 of my beers in there, but I couldn't participate. I was what do you call it? You're like a server. You kind of assisted the judges. You opened the beers up and you poured the beers for them, and they did the flights of tastings and all that. They wrote the notes, and this group of judges I worked with were so cool. They knew I was a beer geek, and so they let me sit there, and they said, pour another one for yourself. And so when they went and they wrote the stuff, they would look at me and say, okay, what do you think about the clarity? What do you think about the appearance? What do you think about the flavor? What do you think about the aroma? They would ask me that, and I would talk to them, and tell them what I thought, and they would nod their heads and look at each other, and they'd write up their papers or whatever. So it was really fun, and I learned so much from doing that. I said, wow, what a neat thing. I said, I want to be one of those guys, And there were men and women there, and it was just so fun how they could judge beers, and I think it's important. In my thing now as the owner of a place, I want to be able to drink my beers and be able to look at it through that eye of a judge.
I think that's cool.
Yeah, they're all
Yeah.
They're all
so
so
there's
unique.
things, again, I'm only so far into that, but that's something I still want to
So,
pursue.
in other words, if you have John Taffer coming into your bar rescue, he's not going to be sitting there screaming at the top of his lungs because you know what you're doing.
Right. I would hope not. Yeah.
Is he
Yeah.
still around? Is
Oh,
he-
yeah.
he
Is
is.
he still? Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
He's awesome. I do like that. It's
I
fun.
thought a lot of that was just for TV show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I heard him on 105.7 talking to Nipsey on a phone interview, and it's not.
Yeah.
Maybe some of the antics are television
Right. For television.
for television. But he says we're there for 5 days. He scouts the places. And then it was interesting to hear him say that he'll even mess with the bars he's actually going to go to because they set the security cameras up ahead of time so they can.
Right.
He has something to look back on to see if he's going to come work with this bar. And he said, I'll send my people and take the cameras down, and they'll be like, he's going to another spot, and then he shows up. So the stuff you see on TV when he walks in, he wants it to be that authentic reaction.
Of them saying, "Oh shoot, here he is." We didn't think he was going to come.
It was very interesting to hear him say that. But yeah, I think some of the over the top yelling and stuff is for television because that's what he's known for.
But he gets right to the crux of the problem, though, doesn't
Right.
he?
Oh my God, yeah. I can't.
Which, as an owner, I would be happy, if somebody could pinpoint, "Oh, here's where you're failing." Yeah, help me.
Yeah. I think it's cool. And following. I think it's interesting being a judge. I don't know if I personally could do it because, like I said, my palate is okay. I like this beer. I'm trying to learn what to kind of feel and taste it and get those flavor profiles out of it.
Right.
I couldn't tell you everything.
But it's also knowing that style, too. That's the thing. You got to be kind of an expert on the style. So if you're judging, a Hellas and a
It's different.
You want to be able to speak to that.
Like you just said about my beer there. Okay, well, it's not that sweet, which you hit the style right on the
right.
on the
That's
head.
what I've read about wee heavies. You don't want it to be a sweet beer. The perception should be sweet, but it shouldn't be cloyingly sweet. Then that's
You're not drinking a milk stout.
Exactly. Perception, and your actual taste are two different things. It's very interesting. I'm fascinated by that. That's why I'd love to.
I think it was cool when I saw that,
and I feel like it makes me better as well for my own beer. So it can't hurt me, right?
No, and any industry, and Richard could probably attest to this. You can't become stagnant. You got to keep trying to better yourself if you want to be the best at what you can do.
Right. Now, I only got so much time. I'm old, so I look at it this way. I'm kind of on the fast track. I'm not like some of these other guys that are in their 30s or 40s or whatever. I'm in my 60s, and I figure I got 5-10 good years left, to enjoy this and make it the best I can make it. And he's the same way, We're very like-minded. We are really focused on how good can we be.
I was just talking to my one supplier the other day, and I was like, I'm like, 10 to 12, and I'm looking at retirement, and I'm like, holy shit, when did I get that old?
Yeah. Who's that guy in the mirror?
Right.
When did I get that old? When did I get that old talking about retirement already?
Right.
Holy shit.
Getting old's not for sissies.
It is not, and it does not come with an instruction manual.
No, it does not.
Neither did kids.
No.
I don't know about 60s and 70s, but that 50-year hit, that was very rude.
Oh my! What else? What other passions you got? No, well, before we get into that, any of your OGs here, are they from your original stash of recipes when you were brewing at home, or did you these newly evolved recipes, or any of them from your home brewing days?
Yeah. So my Munich Dunkel is a homebrewed recipe. I brewed that when my youngest son was born. So it's called Jacob's Lager.
Okay.
And so he's now passed, and so I brew it every year on his birthday. So
I
that's
think
what
that's
I
what I had when I was down there. I had the Dunkel, which was the Jacob's Lager. So
and that's a favorite of mine, not only because I love that style, but also I do think it's a great representation of that style. We use the spunding valve. We do the spunding on it, the German style spunding, and it just makes it creamy and toasty. It's just a delicious beer.
It was a very well-made, good drinking beer.
Yeah.
Like
And
you're
that's
saying.
and so the funny thing of the story behind that is I brewed that like in 19 was it so he was born in 1995. I was working at another brewery down in Baltimore, South Baltimore, called Oxford Brewing Company. It was one of Maryland's first microbreweries. And I worked on there. I was just moonlighting. I was working at another company up in Hunt Valley, and I'd leave there at 5 o'clock on Tuesdays and Thursdays, drive down to near the airport and brew with them. They'd be doing their second brew of the day, and I would go in there after they're mashing in, they're transferring to the brew kettle, and I'd finish the beer and pump it over into the fermentation tank and then clean everything. And that was my thing. And so I'd be there till about 10 o'clock at night, and and then I would go home. But when I worked there, the master brewer there, the head brewer there, he's like, man, he goes, your home brews are really good. He goes, you should enter them in a contest. He goes, I'm a judge down at a contest. And he was down at, do you remember the Bricks Keller down in D.C. back in the day?
No.
The Bricks Keller was like a big beer place down in D.C. They had all kinds of beer people come there and do shows and tastings and all that. Anyway, they had a beer judging there. It was a regional beer for I forget the name of it. Anyway, it escapes me. But anyway, so he says you should place your beers in this contest. So I had a Russian Imperial Stout, and I had this Munich Dunkel, and so I entered him in the contest. He came back like the next week. He goes, your Dunkel won second place, and you won a silver, for the Dunkel. And I'm like, no kidding. He goes, yeah. He goes, your Russian Imperial Stout scored higher. He goes, but there's so many entries in that category, it didn't place. Isn't that funny? So I got my first award for that beer that I brewed. My son was born. So that was.
And speaking
kind
of
favorite.
awards, you've won more than one, just that one and the one at the Winter Brew Fest recently.
Oh yeah, I've won the Maryland Microbrewery Festival. There's just so many of them. That silver, when I was talking about Silver Branch, when I was down there, I won a golden sour. I think I won a gold award for my golden sour.
Wow.
So I won first place for the golden sour I did that year.
So that's what Richard's doing. He's just riding your coattails.
He's the brains behind the outfit.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
And, like I was off camera, we were talking about this wee heavy being brewed by Sign of the Horse. As a home brewer, it made me feel good. It's like they're sitting here drinking my beer, and they're brewers on a professional level. And they're like, we want to brew your. I'm like, head starts to swell.
Sure. It means you're doing something right,
right.
or your head's in the right place at least.
And we've
even if
joked,
it's swelling.
Yeah, we've joked about doing our own brewery, but you know what?
No.
It's
Not yet, anyways.
It's a weekend gig. I like my weekends, and I still got my full-time job.
Well, wait a minute. You guys started in the 60s, right?
Yeah.
We got a couple of years left. Not
Yeah,
many, but a couple.
yeah. Well, when we bad this around, I was like I was 58, 59 or whatever, and I'm too young to retire. And I got laid off from my last company unexpectedly, and Rich had already retired, and he was doing some projects on the side just to keep busy, because again, he likes doing what he does, and that's kind of where it all kind of came together. And then he always said, hey, if you ever quit your job or whatever, look into doing a brewery or whatever. And so that's when he came down and we talked about it. And when I got back home, we started looking at properties, and within how many months we signed a lease.
Wow.
Led to another.
Yeah.
Well, what are we sitting here right now with? This is the High Rail Hazy, right?
So that's the Hazy New England IPA. Yeah, that's our flagship beer.
This is right for you, Dave. Mm-hmm. Juicy, dank, soft.
Yeah, I noticed.
And this is, think of this as as the Penzi on steroids. So I kind of bumped up the alcohol, this IPA strength. So it's like 6.4 or something like that, or 6.2.
6.4.
6.4.
47 IBU.
Yes. And so the IBUs, in the hazy don't really mean that a lot, because most of the hops is added in the whirlpool or at the dry hop.
And that doesn't bring the IBUs up, or does it?
It does. The whirlpool adds some IBUs
Okay.
to it, but it's not like when you boil with it, so it's different. We tweaked that a couple times of where the temperature should be when we in the whirlpool when we added the hops to it. First, we were doing it too hot, and the hops were too intense, and I didn't want it like that. So the second batch, we adjusted it, and we got to where I think we're really happy with it. So again, it's base malt, a Pilsner malt. It's the spring wheat, spring barley, or chip malt, or whatever, dextrin malt, and then and oats. And the oats really soften it.
Oats bring the softness and, the haziness to it, correct?
And then for more hazy, we had the white wheat malt. The unmalted white wheat malt.
Well, it has a nice aromatic to it.
It does.
Not as aromatic as the Penzi Paleo, though.
Really?
I don't think so.
Huh.
Oh boy, yeah. I don't agree with that one.
It should be more, but like I said, this is
I think it smells good.
Yeah, swirl it around and smell it, but it should be more. So we used cryo hops in this. So I use almost all cryo hops. Actually, the latest batch we brewed is all cryo. So it's Columbus, Mosaic, and then Citra.
I think it's more.
Yeah.
Myself,
more?
I think it's
All
more.
right. So here is to the High Rail Hazy.
Yeah, man.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, friends.
Cheers.
One sip, Dave.
Now the hops definitely hit me more up front on this one than the pale ale,
But it's 2 times in a row.
but it's not overly bearing. It's good.
No, where I thought it would be. I like this a little bit better than the last one.
Yeah. The Penzi, to me, it's more pale ale. So it's, again,
Like a
it's
Sierra
4.8.
Nevada,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly. That's kind of more, even though it's a New England style, it's still more of a pale ale than an
what did you
IPA.
say?
What's that?
What did you say?
I said the pale ale is more towards a Sierra Nevada pale ale.
Okay.
That was what.
I thought
Which
you
is
said
a West,
something-
was
yeah,
a
yeah.
West Coast style
I
pale
thought he
ale.
said something totally different. I'm like, whoa.
But that was like one of my favorites, growing up when I started.
And there's a lot of people that
Yeah.
that's what they clone theirs
Yep.
off of is that Sierra Nevada because that's
It's a
one of the
beautiful
OG.
beer.
It's one of the
Absolutely
OGs,
beautiful.
and they still make it to this day.
Oh, yeah.
What was Emily from Englewood? She said the magic
Gosh, dang,
was it
that's
Magic Cat or Magic Cat number 9?
Number 9, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Even though she's never drank it, somebody asked her what's her favorite beer, and she just came up with that one.
Wow.
We got to
funny?
get her back for that.
Oh, I told her. I just talked to her a couple weeks ago, and I said, well, he said, I'm going to get you down here to brew, and we're going to have that Magic Cat number 9 sitting here for you.
Amazon, do you deliver?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, you know what? I like it. Mr. Dave, what do you think?
It's not bad. I drank it.
Again,
You
it's
did.
really drinkable. It's very
It's
drinkable.
very,
is
drinkable.
very
I liked
drinkable.
it better than the last one. And I have to be careful because of my delicate palate.
Jesus.
Not to overwhelm it with too much dark and dank and funky
That
beers
funky sour.
and sour beers.
I could go for a good sour. I haven't had one in a while.
Yeah, I mean, and I enjoy some sours. Some I don't, but some I do. We've had some really good sours. Some that taste, key lime pie, where you're getting all 3 flavors at different times on the palate,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
I don't know how you guys figure that out.
But we just launched today our peach cobbler. And that's a sour that we brewed.
That's worth a trip down.
And it has
Well,
250 pounds of peach puree in it,
Oh man,
and Saigon cinnamon and Madagascar vanilla beans added to it in the
well, that's just like
tank.
when we had Emery from Scrubbies here. I never drank. I stayed away from pumpkin beers. Just something
Yeah.
in my head that I didn't like pumpkin. But when we recorded with him, it was near Halloween. He brought his pumpkin, and it was almost like drinking a liquid pumpkin pie. I was like, "Oh my god, this changed my whole kind of what we started with in the beginning, where you're talking about the people don't with the craft beers.
Yeah.
they have that misconception about what a good beer is supposed
Yeah,
to be.
yeah.
And that was me with
Yeah.
this pumpkin. I'm not drinking pumpkin beers.
I don't want pumpkin
They-
pie in my beer.
Yeah, they
I'm with you. I mean, in the same way, I like pumpkin pie, and I'll eat it, but I don't want it in my beer.
You mean like the Snitch Creek lemon and bologna?
I was
one?
going to just mention that. I like a slice of bologna with my cheese and crackers, but I don't want it in my beer.
Yeah.
that's been coming up on every episode.
You know who made the best pumpkin beer, in my opinion?
I think we lost his mic.
That's
In my opinion,
I
that's
think
it.
we got backcourt.
We're
There we
good.
are.
Was Dogfish Head, the pumpkin ale that they used to brew.
You know
It's
what?
called pumpkin. That actually had some pumpkin flavor to it, but it was still very much a beer. They didn't
I
lose
think
the beer
I have
part of it.
had that. It's either that one or did Fatheads make one too called Pumpkin Ale? Like Punkin Ale?
Yeah, yeah.
Or Pumpkin Head or something?
I know Dogfish did, and then of
I
course
think
you
I've
have
had the
Southern
Dogfish.
Tier makes that Pumpkin
Yeah.
King.
That's
Pumpkin.
the one I
That's
had.
an Imperial.
That's the Southern Tiers
And
one
because
I
it's so high alcohol, you can get away with the pumpkin pie thing because it is so smooth and it is really fun to drink.
I've had
I
this.
could get-
That's the one I've had.
Yeah, I get
Because
that.
when you said Pumpkin, I'm like, I had something and I couldn't remember
Yeah,
who did it.
yeah. Southern Tier.
But that changed my whole perspective about pumpkin beers, yam beers, because people do in that fall.
Well, we
they'll
did a
do
pumpkin
yam.
beer last year, and I love the recipe. I still love the recipe, but I wasn't happy with the end result. I think we could do better. And I took it off after so long because it had a flavor, it had a taste at the end of it I wasn't crazy about, so I took it off.
So speaking of that, so if your guys aren't happy with what you just brewed, do you still put it out on the tap to
No.
see what you're?
If I won't drink, if I don't like it, I'm not going to serve it to my customers.
Okay.
So that's what we did with that one. We it really tasted really good up front when it started. And it was about a month into it. It started getting an astringency at the back end. that I
Longer
didn't
sat,
like.
yeah, it didn't.
And one of the customers said something about it, and then my general manager said something about it, and I went and I tried it again. I'm like, it's not bad, I said, but it's not what I really want it to be. And I'm like, take it off, take it off.
We've had some beers at breweries, and it's like, okay, are you guys actually tasting what you're putting out?
Yeah. Well, there's two things I think could have been wrong with it. One of them was using it's one of the spices. Nutmeg. I think it may have been nutmeg in it.
There you go.
And the other one was I used the yeast for one of my other dark beers. It was a British, British ale yeast, like a nice for my mild. And I used that in that, thinking that would be a perfect yeast for that.
And it was
Maybe something about that wasn't. Maybe I need to do a fresh pitch.
Right.
So
conflict.
fresh pitch, no nutmeg. I'm not, and I did use 200 pounds of pumpkin in there.
Oh,
yes, and it was fantastic. I spent the whole day. Me and my brewers spent the whole day chopping up pumpkin, and then putting brown sugar on it in the sheet trays, putting it in our pizza oven, and roasting it for so many hours until it was. And it smelled wonderful. It tasted wonderful. Then we cut it off of the rinds, put it into 5-gallon buckets. And then into the cooler. Next morning, we poured it into the mash, half in the mash and then half in the boil, and it tasted amazing. But I found out from other brewers that you don't need to use that much pumpkin in it. I said, how much pumpkin do you? We use 1 can of fresh packed Libby's or whatever, and you can call it a pumpkin beer. I'm like, really? So again, it was ignorance on my part. Yeah, so I'll take that hit. But again, this year coming up, we're going to use probably butternut squash. I heard is better than pumpkin because it tastes more like pumpkin than pumpkin does.
Right,
Go figure.
yeah.
And so we're going to do a couple things different. I'll make it again because I do feel like I can make it really good.
I have some well-cured pumpkins still sitting in my flower garden out
in your
here.
flower garden.
So when you guys leave today, you can take a look.
And we'll get back to you on that.
Thinking about that, I got to get some seeds from there.
Too funny.
Yeah, they'll be. So my wife just left them there and they just been slowly
From Halloween.
just since Halloween disintegrating. And I'm like, are you ever gonna? So
I got to tell you, I have some of this pumpkin beer in cans. We still have cases
Do you?
of it. And I told my brother, I said, keep it. Because I've made beers as a home brewer in the past. I did one with the spruce tips in it.
Okay,
We tried it. It tasted like road tar.
but the longer it's sat.
Yeah. Well, so I forgot about it. We tasted it a year later. I found it in the back, and I was like going through my archives. I'm like, oh, I still got that darn road tar beer, right? And I took 2 of them out and I put them in the fridge. And that Friday night we had our Vortex and we tried them, and we're rolling out. We're like, oh my god, this is freaking delicious. So go figure. Yeah. I have to tell you, the pumpkin beer, it doesn't taste bad now. But I'm gonna let it sit there for a while and see what happens.
Well, you guys have mentioned it. We definitely got to get a road trip down there because when I was down there, what I had on the train, what I had when I come over there to get my beer and see you break a glass sitting there talking next to the
That's right. You were there when I broke the glass. It was an empty glass. The wind just slid across the thing and
bullshit. You got flagged at your own bar. And what we're sitting here sampling tonight, it's definitely worth a road trip.
Yeah.
We definitely got to get down there.
I'm glad you're enjoying it.
I got to talk to my buddy because normally we go in the morning and then have breakfast, and I would have to go in the afternoon and have lunch.
There you
Yeah,
go.
well, I'm not going to run the rail trail. I'll drive, and I'll meet you down there.
Well, when you come in, you can come back and taste the tanks as well.
Yeah.
And so here's a neat thing. So I've started a barrel program. So I have now 8 barrels. Yeah, 8 barrels. I'm keeping it at a friend's house because we just don't have room in the brewery between that and the restaurant. So we fill the. So last week we did our sour beer. So we did the 6 barrels of the peach sour. We did that, and then we took 2. We filled 2 55-gallon barrels, wood barrels, rye barrels to be exact, of our sour beer. That's going to go sit for a couple months in my friend's building. He has a building out in Maryland.
Wow.
When we bring those back, we're going to pump that back into the fermenter and we're going to dry hop it. And then we're going to carbonate it and package it. So it's going to be a dry hopped golden sour, barrel aged. And I think it's going to be fantastic. I tried to do a barrel aged last year. We did spirals. I wasn't happy with the spirals. I think you were mentioning about wood chips or whatever.
Yeah.
I said, I got to get the real deal. So we finally got the barrels, and that barrel beer, you could tell that was the first beer we did in a barrel, and that made all the difference.
Well,
in the world.
we were going to use that one to cheers out with, but he said they got to drive home. They weren't interested in drinking over 10%.
It is fantastic. You guys drink it.
So we
any way
will
you
drink
like.
it. Don't trust me. We will drink it.
If we could have a weekend without rain, maybe we'd have a fire.
Exactly.
I do have an idea for you guys.
Uh-huh.
See if you can work something out with the Northern Central Railway and get one of their cargo trains and just put on the rails right outside your thing, or you can put your barrels in that.
That's an idea. Yeah, could possibly do that.
Just saying.
That would be interesting. So we brewed a saison the other day. When that saison's ready, I have 2 more barrels that are going to get filled with that saison. That's going to go sleep for a couple weeks. And then we're going to dry hop that as well. So that'd be a really fun beer to drink.
Tell you what, you guys are thinking outside.
I got
the
crazy
box. You got
ideas.
stuff going on.
Yeah, poor Rich. He listens to my stuff, and I know he rolls his eyes. I think, man.
It's that wild and funky.
But I
guy.
think that's what separates you from the competition
does. You can't
is
follow
your
suit.
creativity and doing different things.
Yeah.
I think that's what separates you. And I'm not doing because it's something I want to do. It's something that I've done before, and I think it's wonderful, and I'd like to do it on this level and see. And the reception from our customers, our Mug Club members, they're out of their minds. One woman told me last week, she goes, anything you do in the barrel, she goes, you got my attention. She goes, I'll try it. She goes, I love barrel aged beer. I'm like, really? I'm like, because ladies normally aren't crazy about it. Mostly guys are, but she was like so adamant. I was like, it just steeled me. I'm thinking, oh yes, I'm definitely going to do that. I said, and when you come in next time, you're going to try that barrel aged beer. And she's like, oh yeah, I can't wait. So it's fun to listen to the feedback from your customers.
And it is, and it kind of gives you direction.
It does. It makes me want to do these things because it's unique. Not everybody does it, and not everybody they do it. They don't do it well.
Right.
So my whole thing is how can I do it and do it really well. So
Yeah. And
that's my challenge to myself.
That's what kind of separates you from your competition.
Well,
and not really competition, from your peers.
Yeah.
People ask us about competition or whatever, and we kind of take the analogy that everybody's got to take care of themselves. We're going to set our bar for ourselves,
Right.
And that's the bar we're trying to achieve. And so if anybody else can do it, that's fine too. But we set our own bar, and that's
You guys are you're spot on so far with us. I can tell you that.
Did you talk about your food? You know what you have there?
He smashed burgers.
Well, the smashed burgers and wings.
So we have a special. We don't have a. We kind of have a special, a smaller kitchen, but it's designed to complement the bar or the brewery, so to speak. We put most of our emphasis on pizzas, so we have we put a lot of money into our pizza oven, and so that's. I think people are starting to find out, and we've had a lot of people say that one of the best pizzas in South York County. So pizzas are kind of our central theme, but we also smoke all our meats. So anytime you get something from us, whether it's pulled pork sandwich or if it's a French dip or it's even the chicken, even our chicken salad is smoked chicken. It's everything. In fact, all of our meats are smoked. But we also have salads. We have brats. We kind of stumbled into that and found out a lot of people like that. So we have a good complement of sandwiches. We do tots. We don't do French fries. We do certain things a little
I
differently.
like tater tots over.
We don't have
fries.
fryer. We don't have a fryer. So everything that Rich is talking about,
we
do
cook
it in
out
the
of a
pizza
pizza
oven. Yeah.
Believe it or not.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's a kind of a unique.
So it's
kind of
healthier eating.
And we just did St. Patty's Day, and we did corned beef and cabbage.
I did see that. I didn't eat because I was trying to get home, but yeah.
We had shepherd's pie and Cole County.
Oh man,
So,
I should have looked at the
kind
fucking
of-
menu.
Kind of a
Damn.
unique for
Yeah.
a brewery to throw those things out. So that turned out really well. So we do specialty things on the weekends, and of course, at least once a month through the winter, we're doing raw oysters. This
Yeah.
Saturday we're doing raw oysters on Saturday for our anniversary, and then we do again smoked
Pit
meat.
beef.
So we do pit beef,
Yeah.
pit turkey, pit ham, and we're doing that this Sunday.
So
So we do a lot of smoked meats. The pizzas are a central theme, and it's proven to been a pretty popular.
How
menu.
often you going to do the raw oysters?
So I talked to my oyster guy, and he's getting the oysters we're getting are from not
Chincoteague?
Chincoteague Bay in Virginia. Well, it's not Virginia; it's the northern part of
Yeah.
Bay that's in Maryland.
Maryland,
so
yeah.
Yeah.
they're considered. These are called wild ponies. They're supposed to be the saltiest oysters
Yeah.
in Maryland. And we did those last month. They were absolutely fabulous. We
So this is a
sold out.
monthly thing you guys do this?
Yeah, yeah. We started doing it in December. I think December we started.
Because,
Yeah.
as we're recording this will come out sometime in May. So I'm just trying to think of how I can get down there because this weekend ain't going to work. My wife's already got plans since it's
So-
our birthday weekend.
So I asked my oyster provider. I said, "So can we do something in April or May or whatever?" And he goes, not for the southern oysters." He goes, "We might have to go north and get some of the oysters and from like Maine or something like that. Cold water, you got to do the cold water
Yeah.
oysters. So I think we can go further into the season if we do the cold water. So I'm going to look into it because
love raw
where we're
oysters.
at, you have a lot of transplants from Baltimore.
Yeah.
And in southern PA, really, and they love pit beef, they love oysters, they love crabs, all that stuff. So we're looking at maybe dabbling with that as part of our menu going forward to bring people up to do that, so they don't have to go down to Baltimore to get crabs or oysters or pit beef. They can get it here in PA. So
Yeah,
that's
I
what I'm
think
looking
I think you guys are getting right on it. I'm going to be looking out for the oysters again, man, 'cause I love raw oysters.
Yeah. So if we can do them next month, I'll let you know.
Cool. That's
I'll let you
awesome.
know.
That's
As soon as he
awesome.
lets me know, I'm going to talk to him. He's supposed to be delivering tomorrow or Friday, and I'll talk to him.
I can eat easily 3 or 4 dozen.
Oh yeah, yeah. And these are great oysters. They're salty. They're briny. They're just wonderful. They're just
That's-
like I said. You can eat them by themselves. That's how good they are. But
that
we do
starts
it.
at 12.
It's from 12 to 4. Yeah. We do a killer cocktail sauce, but everybody does cocktail sauce. What people don't do is mignonette sauce. And we do a mignonette sauce that's like rice wine vinegar, and some other shallots and
I
some of
normally don't put anything on it, but I may have
It's
to try
insane.
something like that. A little
Yeah.
different.
People
That's
will
different.
come by the tent and say, "Oh man, the oysters are fantastic." I said, "Did you try the mignonette sauce?" "No, I didn't try that." And says, "Give
Try
it to
that.
them." They try. "Oh my God!" He goes, "Oh, I gotta get that, man. That's so good." He goes, "I never heard of that before." Again, I found out about up in Boston when I was up in Boston. Legal Seafoods has a mignonette sauce, and I used to get that for my oysters when I was at the airport in Boston waiting for my flight. And I just thought it was fantastic.
That's
And we
awesome.
nailed it. I think we nailed the recipe for
I
it.
do a little lemon. Sometimes I put a little horseradish on.
Oh,
Other than
yeah.
that, I'm just chucking them.
Yeah, yeah.
There you go.
But again, like I said, these oysters are so good, you don't even need any of that. That's how good they are. You know how the bay oysters are? They're not really briny. They're not really salty. They're kind of creamy, which I'm not crazy about. You need some sauce on there. You need something on there. But these guys are great by themselves. They call them wild ponies.
Raw steamed
Yeah.
oyster stew.
And again, the pit beef we do, how people, they just throw a piece of meat on the grill or whatever. I marinate that overnight. I put a rub on that. I marinate overnight. When I put that on the smoker the next morning, it's already a half inch into the meat. So when we slice that beef, you don't need to put anything on it except horseradish, onions, and maybe a little barbecue sauce. And you got yourself the best bite you ever had in your life.
Road trip.
Just saying. Turkey
I'm
and ham
thirsty.
is fantastic. Yeah.
I should have foregone my
Yeah.
stop to go see Brad and Aaron at Alecraft on my way home from the drinking and had dinner there.
Well, that's okay.
I
There'll
mean,
be another time, right?
I had bangers and mash at Alecraft on my way home. I was like, okay, I'm getting off. My wife was in my somewhere along.
Right.
And they were like, she doesn't drink. All right, let's need to go see these guys.
Sure.
I'm glad you were there because I got to at least talk to
Yeah,
you.
it was great.
Watch you break the glass. And then,
Rubbing that in.
He is, isn't he?
and then, make our way home, stop at Alecraft because we had just recorded with them not long ago and went home, took a nap, and they were doing our wine podcast, and I'm up there trying to stay awake.
Great.
I was wondering why you didn't come down and sample.
Well, no, I was done drinking
Oh.
by that time.
The wine podcast. My wife comes home stumbling. stumbling.
So it's a good one, huh?
She said, we're doing a sip and dip. I figured they were next door in the hot tub.
Oh.
And
Are you serious? They went into the pool after that?
no.
No.
Cindy was drunk, and she's just putting. I'm sorry, Cindy. She's just typing whatever, and they're all trying to get me to come over. I'm like, no, I just got back from my trip, and I'm going to just relax. And good night, I love you. I'm going to bed.
Yep. So we have a wine podcast called Uncorked. So more other content that we're trying
How's
to
that
cover.
doing?
We didn't release anything
We
yet.
haven't released anything yet. We're still
Everything's been recorded and just trying to get the final details so before we launch that.
We have a little bit of trim that we need to put on it before we release it. And the episodes are done, but we just need to put some trim on it. One of the things that I'm holding.
doing it.
What's that?
We're not doing it.
Yeah. One
We
of
got
the-
other people doing it.
One of the things that we're doing with it is putting we're having a special music written for it because there's a certain thing that you can even go out and find music that is supposed to be royalty free,
Right.
And you're
and
going to get nailed.
still get flagged for it. So I said we're not doing that. We're going to have the music that we're going to use for the intro and the outro. We're going to have.
It's funny, the music we have here that was given to us with permission. I'll go to put the podcast out, and every once in a while there'll be a copyright that pops up.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it does. It's not red flagging. It just says copyrighted material. Kind of puts a little check mark there.
Can
like,
you use it or you can't?
Yeah, I can use it.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's written for us.
Yeah, he
Oh,
gave it to
okay.
us. Local band, Jason Heitman, with
Oh,
crap.
no, you forgot the name of his
it's
band.
it's a screamer. They're screamer heavy metal.
Okay.
I don't know how he has a voice, but the beats.
Yeah,
the
my son loves
beats
that.
good stuff.
Oh.
I tell you what, gentlemen, we have had a fantastic time.
Absolutely.
Educational, and the story is phenomenal. I think it's
Thank
great.
you.
Uh,
We enjoy being here. Thanks for having
beer
us.
was awesome. I can't wish we could sit here and drink the rest of them.
Well, those are for you to enjoy on your own.
So tell us where they can find Vortex Brewing Company and not in Oklahoma.
Right. So Shrewsbury Beer and Wine has it. They carry it. Hess Liquors in Madonna carries it. And we're working on some other places as we speak. Our distribution we're really trying to launch this year.
Are you doing self-distribution? You're going to
Yeah,
find
if
somebody
we
to help
make
you with
less,
that?
yeah, and we don't, we don't.
For
make
now, we're doing self-distribution.
20,000 barrels a year. We're on the low end, and so we can self-distribute up to so many barrels. So we have plenty of room, and we just want to get the local area, and just get people to turn them on to our beers and what we're about, and come up to visit the brewery.
Well, we're going to help spread that word.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Thank you.
So where else can they find you? Even though I got it up above
Oh,
us.
Brandon's Beverages is carrying up in York as of today.
Brandon's Beverage or
Yes.
just DJ's?
No, Brandon's.
Where's Brandon's Beverage at?
It's on Mount Rose Avenue.
Mount Rose Avenue.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's give them a shout out.
He just picked them up this afternoon. We talked last week, and they're going to carry our beers. He's excited. He actually, the gentleman that's their manager, he actually lives upstairs of the brewery.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's cool.
and he's been down there. He's like, I like your beer so much, guys. I want to carry him at Brandon's Beverages. I'm like, we'd love for you to carry him at Brandon's Beverages.
we may
So,
have to talk to Mr. Sebastian
Yeah.
at DJ's.
yeah.
Let
Hey,
them-
anything you can help with, that'd be great.
We'll see if we can spread that word. But where else can they find you? You guys are in New Freedom. What's your address?
100 Cambridge Boulevard, which is an interesting address. It's a little tiny street that they created for
Okay.
this new development. And we've been fighting with Google Maps and Apple Maps because they like to take us the shortest route, which is through a back neighborhood to get to us. But
I did see that when I just pulled up the Google Maps when I was on the train. Like, okay, are you guys actually from the train stop? It takes you around and back up.
So we're literally across from the tracks. If you look at the train station and walk straight across the tracks, you are in our parking lot.
Yep.
So it's really we're right off of Franklin Street, which is one of the main little drags.
East
in
Main
New
Street,
Freedom.
they call it, or something like
Yeah,
that.
I talked to the borough about seeing if they could swap it and call that Main Street and make Main Street Franklin Street, but they said that might be hard to
How
get
about
accomplished.
Vortex Avenue?
Yeah, Vortex would be perfect. So, yep, that's where we are. It's New
Website,
Freedom.
social media.
It's vortexbrews.com with a Z. So that's our website, and we're on Facebook and Instagram right now.
At Vortex Brewing Co. and
it's
Vortex
it's
Brewing Company.
Vortex Brewing.
I think Co.'s
I
on
think it's
one and
Co.
Company's on the other.
It's either Co or Company. Yeah.
Either
it's-
way, type Vortex Brewing. You're going to find it.
You
Vortex
should-
Brews
you
will
should be
find
able
it.
to.
And I will say everything we had here has been phenomenal. What I've had so far previously has been phenomenal.
Thank you.
Especially what you gave me at the Winter Brew Fest that you actually won with. I was like, yep.
That was gold.
Well, you can enjoy that around your campfire.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, we will.
Yeah.
We will.
And just
Sounds
have
good.
you know that the bottle's a little different than the draft that we had. So the bottle I carbonated to more of a Belgian triple, like a 3.0 volumes of carbonation. So it should get tighter and it's going to dry out as it gets older. So it should be really a wonderful beer if you age it. If you drink it now, don't worry about it. I have more.
I heard there's a beer robber around here. I mean,
I got a couple bottles up there that have been aging pretty nicely for
Yeah.
about a year so far from
nice.
Helltown.
There's
But
there's a great looking labels too.
They were specially made for Comic-Con when they had it out there. So they were already aged when I got them.
Did you say Hellertown?
Helltown.
Oh, Helltown.
Helltown
okay.
Brewing. So
I'm
they've
thinking
been
of Lost Tavern up in Hellertown. Yeah.
Yeah, they've been aging for a year sitting up there. And there's still some bottles sitting upstairs from Collusion,
Yeah.
Gift Tours.
Yep.
Like I said, we like the barrel aged stuff.
Yeah.
We love it.
Well, we plan on doing more of it, and so it should be a lot of fun. We have a barley wine that's sitting in my friend's garage, his building, that's been there since January. It's coming in about 13% right now. When we poured it, it was like motor oil.
that's the best.
We used probably 1,600 pounds of grain in that sucker. Unbelievable. It's a black barley wine, so it's like a newer style. It's
I was
like
going to say, I
it's
never
like
saw
Russian
a barley
Imperial
one that was-
Stout meets English barley wine, and they call it
Wow.
black barley wine. It's a hybrid,
Black
and
tar.
it tastes amazing. So we're gonna leave in that barrel probably till June or July. Then we'll taste it. I was saying maybe one day we can have you guys up to the barrel house, and
Hell
we can.
yeah.
Sure.
I got the nails in there. We can do some samples and just see how they're doing.
That's content
Yeah.
we could use, and we'd truly
Yeah.
enjoy that. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be
awesome.
fun. So right now I got 2, 4. I'll have 6 barrels filled, and eventually we'll have all 8 filled. So yeah,
Wow.
and we're going to be getting some more barrels too. So we're just getting started.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Mr. Dave, any last comments?
No, I had it. I enjoyed this. A little bit of an education. I have to go out and get my beer judge certification so that I can go and
And we're going to put you
Drink some-
strictly in the IPA sour category.
yeah.
That'll go over well.
If that's the judging that you like to see.
Yeah, I don't know if you
And,
can pick and choose which beers you judge.
Oh,
Who knows?
okay.
They might put you if you have certain categories you're fond of. I don't know how
Barrel
that works.
aged.
Yeah, right, right.
I'll do all the barrel age.
Can't
Do they
go
give
wrong
you a
with that.
badge? You can walk in and just any bar and just say, "Hey, I'm here to taste and judge your beer."
Right. Here's the only beers I want to taste.
Yeah,
That's not a bad idea.
yeah,
We get Josh to make them on the 3D printer.
yeah.
Yeah.
We're the beer judges. We're here to judge your beer. Bring out your best.
Mr. Kevin, any last comments?
No, like always, thank you. 2 out of the 3 anyway so far. I didn't know if I liked the smell, but tasted very, very good. Highly recommend it.
Yeah. Well, before we get out of here, we got one more sitting here. We're going to cheers out with this one. What is this? Polar Vortex.
Yeah, this is
So that
interesting.
That is a newer style as well, and it's a cold IPA. So I think the whole premise behind the cold IPA, from what I've learned about it, is it's a West Coast style IPA brewed with a lager grist.
Okay.
So which means in this beer we used rice flakes and Pilsner malt. And so and we use a regular ale yeast in it. So it's brewed with an ale yeast, and we have the hops. We started doing the CO2 extract hops, and I do 2 cans of that in the front end. So we add that to the boil before it starts boiling, and then we add the rest of the hops as in the whirlpool, and then of course we do a double dry hop for it. And so it's pretty intense. So the IBUs, because we do use the CO2 extract.
It is 101.
Yeah, it comes in at 101.
Dave,
yeah.
this is right up your alley.
Yeah. And so the funny thing is about those hops, it's a nice firm, assertive bitterness, but it's pleasant. It's not like kind of crazy and it's all over the place. It's a nice firm bitterness. So when you drink it, it kind of shocks your palate. But as you sip it, you start getting accustomed to it, and you're like, oh my God, this is really good.
Kind of like drinking a harsh whiskey. Get that burn out before
Yeah,
you start getting the flavor profile.
Once that palate adjusts and you're drinking it, you're like, I mean, Rich even likes it, and it's aggressive.
Are you sneezing while you're drinking this one?
No, once I sneeze and get it over with, then I'm good the rest of the night.
Yeah. One sneeze and done.
But it's just got a really nice, like I said, it's absurd up front, but then it finishes really nice, and it got that nice dryness at the back end, like a good. But you got that nice, the nice resin,
That's
and
what I was
bitterness
getting ready to
at
give
the
you
front
some
end.
help.
Yeah.
Resinous,
Yeah,
dry,
you
and
got the
refreshing.
resinous at the front end, the nice resinous. You almost got some like berry flavors in that as well from that hops. So you get a little bit of berry or some kind of berry notes from it, some grassy notes, and then it finishes just really nice. And so the finish should be nice and dry. So it should be really easy to drink. And again, like a West Coast IPA, you get that intensity of hops, but you don't have the heaviness of a West Coast. Because remember, West Coast IPAs, if you think about Sierra Nevada, that malt had to be at a certain level to match the hops. So the malt, it was pretty much malty beer, but it was a very hoppy beer.
Right.
With the cold IPA, it's the malt. The malt is not the star; it's a supporting cast, and the hops is the star. So it showcases the hops, and it just gives you that nice, lager malt grist, which is kind of in the background. It's just smooth. It's wonderful, but the hops is the star of the show, and that's what's fun when you drink this.
This is awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, this is a huge education. And, we're going to have to start paying attention to his cans because he got different descriptions on there.
Yeah.
So, gentlemen, we've had an absolute pleasure having you guys in here, getting to know more about you guys and what Vortex is. So,
thank you. We really appreciate you having us as well.
yep,
That's an honor.
If you are in southern York County, make sure you give Vortex Brewing a visit and search them out because they've got great beer, great building, perfect area.
Yeah.
If you're on the rail trail, hop on over and say hi. And if you're out there, we're going to raise a glass with Ed and Rich from Vortex Brewing and the CPP, and let's all be bonded
by beer.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.